Good afternoon, YouTube. My name is KarQ. We have Overwatch hot takes of the week. Hopefully, there's one of these that is talking about Marvel Rivals because that's what I've been playing. And I have a new channel on it, by the way, KarQ Marvel Rivals. Go subscribe. But here we're talking about Overwatch. First hot take of the week. They should increase the price of skins. Make more money in Blizzard's pockets will give them the budget to make more cinematic animation, story missions, and give us PvE. Whales will be whales. Now, that is certainly a hot take because generally speaking, you want the consumer to be happy, right? Us, so we don't have to pay as much for skins. If they increase the price of skins, yes, more money may go into Blizzard's pocket, maybe. Because if you increase the price, that doesn't account for the same amount of people buying the skin at that price point. Could be less people buying, or it's like a 10% less of people buying at a higher price makes them more money. They have to tweak those two knobs. That's how business works, right? More money in Blizzard's pocket doesn't necessarily mean more budget to make these good things. There's a different part of the equation called the budget allocation. I'm sure Blizzard has plenty of money in their business. It's just how they decide to allocate what's worth putting resources into and what's not. So more money in their pockets may incentivize them to actually put more money into art and create more skins to sell, rather than necessarily getting the direction for cinematic, story missions, and PvE. That's kind of dead. That's project management, and that's like decision made by the game director, and I think the shareholders would be like, we want general overarching decision for the thing to do this, but no, this is certainly a take. I don't think they should increase the price of skins at all. We want to fight for the consumers, guys. That's us. Hot take, Ramattra might still be good with the pummel rework, but he still feels worse to play since it's not satisfying to just punch walls. You're talking about the pummel rework that they went to and then reverted. I've already answered this before, but the pummel rework where like he used to pierce shields and now he just kind of punches shields and it breaks it faster but doesn't actually do damage. Objectively, from a balance standpoint, isn't that bad because it just changes some of the interactions. Yes, maybe you don't win the Ryan punching matchup as much because you don't do damage, but you break his shield faster. You break Sigma's shield faster. Against Zarya, it's a big advantage for Ramattra to do 2.5x damage per punch. It means 2 punches to break a Zarya bubble. That's 1.2 seconds to break her bubble versus previously you'd have to punch 4 times to break it, if I'm not mistaken, right? 60, 60, 60 is 180. Yeah, a fourth one. It's 200 HP bubble. But you're right. It just feels worse to play because it's just not satisfying punching walls and punching things that don't look like they're actively breaking or adding pressure to. He was fine the way it was before, but balance-wise, it was fine. Just change interactions. But if it's not fun, then it's a net loss, in my opinion. So I'm glad they reverted it. Currently, Ramattra does pierce shields, for those who don't know. Hot take, most of us don't actually care about PvE. I mean, we did when it first got canceled, and at this point, it's a meme, but let's be honest. Overwatch is popular for its moment-to-moment gameplay, the characters, and somewhat lore. I think originally the idea was interesting, and you're right though. I think most people did care, especially at first when they brought up the idea. It's like, you know what, that could be fun. And then when it got canceled, we were all collectively agreeing that it was a tough decision, and we were not happy. But right now, I don't think your take is that hot. Most people who are still part of the community don't care, myself included. Like actively playing the PvP game, because if you're still actively playing the PvP game today, it means you probably love the PvP a lot more than the PvE, what would have been the PvE. Personally, I don't really play any of the story missions, and I did the PvE like shitty missions once, and whenever they have a new event with like, you know, that Rialto map with the assassin and all that fun stuff, I play it once in the arcade and never play it again. But I actually do think when you say most don't care about the PvE now, a lot of people who did care left the game. That's why you don't hear as much about it. But yeah, I think obviously we need to move on. I'm upset they canceled it, but I've been over it for many years now. It's whatever. I do like Overwatch PvP still, the moment-to-moment gameplay, the high action pace, and I enjoy Marvel Rivals a lot, but I think like Overwatch is a nice reminder of what a nice polished PvP game could be, and I'm excited for their 6v6 test coming back because I miss that part of the game too. I'm fine with 5v5, but like I'm curious to see how they implement it. The characters are great, somewhat lore. What people actually do care about is less about PvE now, and I do think they care more about cinematics. After seeing what Arcane did, I think we need like the story to like progress. Hot take, dive tanks are just as unhealthy as any of the normal problem children of the tank role like Mauga and Orisa. It's not fun to get jumped on and die instantly, and it's also not fun to try and support a tank that leaves half of your team behind to get picked off every fight. Not everyone enjoys the ultra high mobility APM tanks because they ruin the experience of the other two roles. That is certainly a take. I think it's saying that it's unhealthy is interesting because dive and like high mobility is just one archetype of a style you can play. It doesn't mean it ruins the other other roles though, because you can play with that role too, or you can opt not to. Like a lot of dive can be defined with like, you know, Winston, Tracer and whatnot, and you could play non-dive supports like Anna Brig, who are kind of stationary in the back. You can totally play dive without dive heroes. You could totally play like half your composition as dive and the other two or three are supporting cast and play from different angles, or you can opt into a full dive like the Winston, Tracer, Genji, Lucio, Kiriko or whatnot. I think in general, high mobility equals fun. It just seems like you don't like fun, but to say it's unhealthy is questionable. Now, let's go back into the Mauga Orisa. The thing is, it's like not fun to play against, and it's generally not fun for the people playing it because disproportionately they have a lot lower of a player population playing these heroes. More people opt to play Doom, Winston. I'm sure you see Dooms all the time in you know, in Diamond and your average ranks. Like, people like mobility, and I think that's a general consensus. So even if it's unfun for you to play it, more people will say it's fun to play dive heroes and play with dive and against dive compared to Mauga and Orisa, where people don't even want to play it and it's not fun to play against, so it's just a loss. So that to me is a definition of something to being unhealthy, where the people playing and people playing against it don't like it. But if people are enjoying it, it's fun. I just reiterated myself 10 times. Move on. Hot take: people playing Overwatch like it's a shooter are playing the game wrong. What? Overwatch is closer to the long-lost PvP game mode of an MMO or RPG that never existed, and the devs should lean more into that. So how could the devs lean more into a long-lost PvP game mode of an MMO if it never existed in the first place? I'm confused. This is a shooting game, a hero shooter. Yes, some heroes don't necessarily shoot a gun, but it's high motion and most people can shoot and use a weapon. I mean, isn't that the definition of a tactical hero shooter? What? What am I reading here? All right, moving on. Hot take: Sombra is massively buffed. She still flanks easier than any other hero, but now her lethality is so much higher. That is certainly a take. I wouldn't say she's massively buffed. I still think she's net nerfed because in general that the neutral and spacing and like being able to stage and close the gap on certain heroes, that flexibility of being permanent stealth is cut down immensely. The costs are at the expense of being a bit more lethal, which is true. Relatively speaking, does she flank easier than any other hero? I don't think so. I think Tracer does a better job of it. A 5-second window to flank is not very much, especially where once it comes out, you have no choice but to burn your own translocator to go back into stealth. So if your 5 seconds are up and you're not in a good spot, you're in trouble. But heroes like Tracer have the agency to recall or blink back away. As a Sombra, you're forced to throw your translocator to force your stealth again, and I think the fact that it's not decoupled from that makes her not massively buffed, but net nerfed. But I will say, I've been pleasantly surprised by the recent Sombras. After they initially nerfed her with the stealth, I think didn't they do like a small buff to her since? Since then, I've seen a lot of Sombras in my games recently, and I've actually been kind of impressed with how they play. They play it with a lot more lethal frontlining style, where they're not actually flanking and going into the back as much. They kind of play off angle, not a hard flank, and that seems to be the better play style. I think Sombra players have to adapt to that in order to find success. Some matchups that she used to be really good on, like Widowmaker, where you were infinite stealth and could, you know, find her wherever, are kind of harder for her, but still doable. But yeah, no, like she still has like a small place if you play her correctly. Hot take: cooldowns are the worst way to balance something. If an ability is annoying to play against and easy to use but has a long cooldown, then it's not actually balanced. You're delaying the pain, not fixing it. If any higher value ability should be hard to use or situational, not an end-all be-all to any problem you throw at it. I completely disagree with this, actually. I think this is certainly a hot take. Saying it's the worst way, not necessarily. It's just one of the many few knobs you can turn. Your first knob is cooldown. Your second knob is tune the numbers itself. Your third knob is to like rework the ability in some capacity. And this cooldown knob is not that bad. It doesn't actually delay the pain. It actually like means you see it less often in a game, in an average game. If you're able to use immortality every 5 seconds, right? Immortality field every 5 seconds, nerfing it to like 25 seconds changes it, because now you have to situationally use it because you know it's a long cooldown. You get one use of it per fight. Not about delaying it, the power of it matters because you can use it multiple times in a team fight if it's active too often, or if it comes up really often in an extended team fight. So saying it's not balanced is certainly a take. It's just one of the knobs, and if that knob doesn't work for that one, you can try to tweak the other ones. But it is a very viable one and doesn't mean it's not balanced. Hot take: Wrecking Ball is the most slept on tank right now. It's kind of crazy that he can do it, what he can do with the right supports and no counters from the enemy team. He might be on the path of getting too good, especially with Sombra not being as good as before, to keep him in line. opinion. I don't think this is a hot take. This is actually a good take. I think Wrecking Ball is severely and criminally underrated. He of course runs into those problems where like 5 people swap to play against him. He has very distinct weaknesses, but like that goes for a lot of heroes that are very feast or famine. If you play in a comp where against the comp that doesn't do anything to deal with you, you can absolutely shred teams. This is not even just a Ball thing. This is like a Doom thing as well. If they play nothing to deal with you as Doom, you can just feast on their backline. Same with Wrecking Ball, but Wrecking Ball has more survivability than Doom and can roll away. It just doesn't have that lethality compared to Doom and that in-fight movement, because if you opt to roll, you probably just boop him once, boop him twice, or roll away. But Doom can like punch, reset, punch, and then slam, and then pop his ult, and then punch again. But, you know, the takeaway point is I do think he's actually kind of slept on. I think they buffed him so much with the whole retraction grapple, adaptive shields, his ammo is better. Like he's a sleeper, that's for sure. Hot take, KarQ doesn't care about newer players. If he did, he would push for LFGs so new players can find their own friends to play with. How many new players play a couple of games, realize no one talks, and just switches back to Apex or any other game? What? Saying I don't care about newer players? I honestly just forgot about LFGs, and like the thing is, me pushing for LFGs, I think that's good, and I encourage people to join Discords and like social communities. The reason why I don't push it in game is because we had LFG in Overwatch 1 and no one freaking used it. Literally, it just wasn't a good experience for a lot of people. Some people here may be like, well, I had a different experience, and that's great and fantastic, but like, I think they made not a public announcement. It said it was a blog. I think it was in a blog post or in passing from a dev that the usage of LFG was so criminally low and they had to spend resources to keep it in the game's memory and have someone to continually moderate it. It just wasn't worth the resources that they were putting in for a baked in LFG system. I care about the newer players and I'm opting you to find social communities to do it, but the in-client one is kind of like not great. That's for sure. Ooh, this one's a good take. Hot take. Tier lists made by content creators have a conflicting effect on the player base that watches them. Most creators of tier lists are very high elo, while the majority of the player base and likely people who watch the tier lists are gold, and what may be S or F tier at high elo may be completely different at the average elo. And I do not think this is solely tier list, just an easy focus point. Just their mumbled, half distracted opinion can have an effect. An example of this, I've seen an effect on a high rank friend of mine before. I got matched against them in a quick play game. They'd seen a tier list that placed Mauga in D tier, and after the game I said Mauga pick was evil, and then they said no, Mauga's garbage now. The content creator that made that tier list made an updated tier list saying that the previous one was incorrect and placed Mauga in A tier right after. I feel like people take what content creators say as gospel sometimes and don't think for themselves and see if they come to the correct conclusion. I want to make it clear, I don't think everyone takes what they say as gospel, just that some do, and I would hope they have more trust but verify attitude. See, that's the thing. Like, your take is that they can have a conflicting effect on the player base is true because quote unquote we're influencers, people look up to us, people watch and consume our content, but that's not our fault. We're just stating our opinion. In my opinion, this hero is this. I always preface my tier list by saying you should just play whoever you want. This is just my opinion. And that's like a reading comprehension, kind of like where the onus is kind of on the person watching it. Whenever I watch tier lists for games I'm not very good at and play, like if I go watch a tier list for Valorant or something, or a game I don't play, I don't watch one and be like, yes, this person says it must be good. I must copy this build. I must copy this and play this every here. No, because like I don't fall for the echo chamber where like if this person says it, they have to be right. That is just a terrible way to go about life, where you believe everything you see in the first one. But that's not the person I watch's fault. That's on me to realize that. So I know, like, you're making a good observation, right? Where your friend is kind of like, that's just your friend kind of, no offense, kind of being dumb. Like, how can you just instantly agree with one person and say like that's true? Because if you decide to look at any other tier list, I'm sure you would have found other creators having a different opinion on Mauga. Every person has a completely different opinion and interpretation on their tier list, and it's up to them to formulate their own, and hopefully after consuming many tier lists. But that's on them, not us, content creators. One more thing, like if you watch these hot takes, like some of you guys may agree with these takes, some of these I don't, some of these I do, and that's fine. Like we can disagree. Please don't agree with everything I say. I don't even think that's healthy at all. I'm happy you guys are watching this. I think hot takes and tier lists should be an opening for discussion. Not so much like you are right and I am wrong and I am wrong and you are right, okay? Hot take, Ball meta is worse than Orisa, Mauga, and Hog. Ball requires very advanced understanding of the character, and during his meta, tank players are shit out of luck trying to compete with those who have more experience on the hero, since the skill floor is higher than any other tank. While playing the latter three heroes, tank players have way less chances to throw and grief their teams than they would first timing Ball. See, that's the thing. If Ball becomes an extreme outlier where it's more advantageous to play the Ball hero because he's so good, even if you have no experience, then it's a problem. But if he's ever meta, he's probably only meta because the people who know how to play him can play him. You can certainly still win games without playing the hard meta, and you don't have to. Ball is very mechanically intensive. And if it ever came to it, I would agree, actually, that a true Ball meta where he's just so damn good that you get better base value by playing him with 0 hours, that is a very big problem. Was that actually truly the case when we had a very temporary Ball meta? I don't think so. I think I locked a couple of games of Ball in the Ball meta, and I still fed my brains out because I don't know how to play this damn hero. But if it ever gets to that point where they're an outlier, we're in trouble as an Overwatch game, as an Overwatch community. All right, last one of the week, hot take. Overwatch will never be a balanced game due to it being a meta game and counter picking. I love how the reactions in the Discord with 4 question marks and a couple of huhs. It'll never be balanced because it's a meta game. Every live service game has a meta, and a meta is just defined by the community on what they collectively agree is really good. And counter picking, I mean, people have agency to pick whatever hero they want in any game. Goes for League, goes for whatever. They say they lock in Aurelia, you can counter pick. You really could. Like, I don't even know what to say to this. I'm moving on. Goodbye. I'm leaving. Bye.